Welcome into the Hard Count. It is Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. And spring practice has happened all over the country. Spring scrimmages happened all over the country. This past weekend, this upcoming weekend, we got the latest for you from a number of different programs. Kaidon on the ones and twos in the Swolo, little sweater polo action. Checking in with him later in the show. Glad to have you a part of this, man. This is the time of the year. A lot of your friends maybe going and watching other sports, doing other things with their life. Not us, though. We're a little bit sick about this sport, college football. So make sure you're subscribed. Appreciate you all in advance for that. I promised you scrimmage intel. We're going to start with scrimmage intel. Let's head out to Knoxville, Tennessee. We visited the folks in Knoxville a few times on this show, both metaphorically and literally. But they had a spring scrimmage the other night, and a couple of notes to break down there. Let's start with this one. This was probably the number one note you were hoping you would get if you were a Tennessee fan. It's glorious. We got explosives, all right? I'm not talking about the literal sense. I'm not talking about dynamite. I'm talking about shots downfield, being connected, explosive plays. This is how you set the entire offense off, man. This is how you elevate back to where you were in 2022, both from a schematic sense and from a, statistical sense. Like, Nico averaged 7.8 yards a pass last year. Not bad. It's pretty good for a lot of circles, kind of middle of the pack when you look at the rest of college football. Hendon Hooker averaged 9.5 yards a pass in 2022. Very, very massive difference. So to be able to stretch the ball downfield, that's where this gets a little bit out of hand for the rest of the SEC, because they're going to scheme it up to where you got one-on-one matchups. You're going to run the football. We'll talk more about that as we get further on throughout this show and throughout this segment. But I love this note for two reasons. One, it means that Nico Iamaleava must have been dialed downfield. Something we were asking for, begging for. I mean, we were holding a session every single, it felt like, week during the season saying, Nico, if we can just get a couple of shots to drop deep, brother, that's going to change the entire complexion of Tennessee football. Change the entire complexion, quite frankly, of what the college football landscape could look like if Tennessee is once again explosive. So, Vol Navy, here we go now. All right, Nico is, from what it sounds like here during spring practice, starting to calibrate the cannon, and we're going to be in good shape. The second note from this, though, when it comes to them having some explosives downfield, I mean, obviously Nico is a big part of this, and the quarterback's a big part of this, but that also means if you're going to have some explosive plays downfield, you got to have somebody getting open. Got to have receivers separating. True freshman, early enrollee, Travis Smith, had a big night. Had a big night when it came to the scrimmage. I was told he caught a long touchdown. On 3 now, the only service to have my guy as a top 10 receiver in his class, worth noting. Dude's going to be a ball player, all right? Now, is he going to start? Game 1 remains to be seen, but he's going to play for them in 2025. He's going to have a role. So to have a guy who's been on campus all of like 15 minutes still figuring out where he wants to eat in Knoxville, catching touchdown passes, that's a good sign, all right? So we got some good vibes out there out of Knoxville, in addition to what you've heard about Chris Brazzell and what he's been so far this spring. Note 2 kind of goes hand in hand with note 1 there. Nico Iamaleava was in complete control. So it's one thing to have the downfield game sort of in the right spot, but to be able to have the entire offensive command, that's huge. That's also something we were asking for in 2024 from Nico. Something we were saying, man, he's talented, he's got all the physical tools, but it just doesn't totally look like he's all the way comfortable out there just yet. And I get it's a scrimmage. I get it's not actually a game happening in the fall, but y'all, you'll take this. You'll take this. The note in addition to this was that Nico Iamaleava, him having control, means that everybody else as an offense operationally, they were in a really good spot. Because that first spring scrimmage, those of y'all that follow this thing closely, a lot of times the first spring scrimmage is kind of clunky for the offense. You got miscues, you got drop passes, you got formational challenges, guys lining up in the wrong spot. Sounds like number 8 was getting the show completely dialed in. If your quarterback has control of the offense, you can make up for some personnel holes. Now, you don't want to have personnel holes. That's just the name of the game. But if you can have a quarterback who knows where to go with the football, you get everyone else lined up, and can just play the game at a different speed than everyone else out there, that's going to allow your linemen to not have to block as long. It allows receivers to have a better sense as to when they're going to be seeing the football. It gives your running back better pictures to run through, all those things. So, again, it's a scrimmage. But beggars can't be choosers. We've been begging for it, and we love to see this out of Nico Iamaleava. Very, very good vibes. Now, Deshaun Bishop is a name that we've talked about on this show before when it comes to the spring for Tennessee. Was told that he stood out. Now, what do we say? If you hear some frequency around somebody, if you hear the same name multiple times, that's a real thing. One time you hear a name, okay, great, awesome, they had a good practice, whatever. But Deshaun Bishop, we've been told, had a great spring to start, had a great scrimmage last night. You lose a dog now in Dylan Sampson, man. It's a lot of production you got to make up for. It's also worth noting Josh Heupel's offense. We think about splash plays. We talk about the desire to have that 9.5 yards of pass number that Hendon Hooker had in 2022. It is built on running the football. If you can't run the football in Josh Heupel's offense, forget about it. It's not going to happen. But Deshaun Bishop, I would imagine, will be able to pick up where those other backs have left off of note under Josh Heupel in his time in Knoxville, and I think he's going to be the next guy. I love his story, too. A guy that I believe he was a walk-on, has kind of been questioned at every turn, just continues to show up, produce, and is trending towards having a tremendous fall when it's time to actually play games in the fall. Now, the defense had some injuries, right? At all three levels, you were missing some pieces. A couple of ways to look at this. One way to look at this is you say the offense had a great night. They must have had a great night because the defense wasn't playing with a full deck of cards. There's some validity to that. However, I think during the spring, if you're able to get some more young bucks some burn and create some depth for you, there's no way to spin that as a bad thing. Like, of course, you'd like to have your defense ball out during the spring scrimmage. Of course, it's always a good thing. But in modern college football, especially in the SEC, going to have to play a lot of games, going to have to withstand a pretty intense workload. The more bodies that you can have ready to play is going to serve you well when it gets to November, December. And hopefully for Tennessee, you're thinking January. So to close this whole thing out on the Tennessee scrimmage intel, man, this is, I think, exactly the kind of intel you would want to hear out of that scrimmage. Nico's in control. Explosive plays. Receivers stepping up. New receivers and Travis Smith stepping up. Run game looks good. All things are trending in the positive direction. Good vibes out of Knoxville. Good vibes out of that first scrimmage. I'm very encouraged about what I heard from my one Nico Iamaleava. Now, USC is going to scrimmage, it sounds like, this upcoming weekend. But got some intel for you from what's going on out there in Los Angeles. Now, before we talk about the spring intel, I want to start with the winter intel around them because they lost, every single game, except for the Notre Dame game, was they had a lead in the fourth quarter. Notre Dame had a lead in the fourth quarter in 11 games. And that last game we're talking about with Notre Dame where they didn't lead in the fourth quarter, they were driving to tie it. So don't let that record confuse you. Don't let the wins and loss total from USC make you think that they're not trending upwards as an overall football program. Neither here nor there. But the winter conditioning now, Kaidon and I told you this one on a previous episode, that was topic number one for them. Hey, we were this close in the fourth quarter. You want to go win football games? You want to find a way to finish in the fourth quarter, get over the hump, all those cliches? You got to put in the work right now during these ridiculous, tug of war, running the stadium and the Coliseum, whatever you are doing during these winter conditioning series while we are up at ridiculous hours in the morning, this is where you go win in the fourth quarter. Is it cliche? Sure. How do things become cliche? They're true. So USC, that's something they're focused on here ahead of 2025. I've been told from folks close to USC, they feel like they are now in a spot, what I was told for the first time since the Pete Carroll days at USC, they're now in a spot where they have everything in order for the most part to go win at the highest level. Personnel department, creme de la creme. Roster, good spot. Offensive staff, good spot. Defensive staff, good spot. It's all there. It's all there. Now, the big variable for a lot of people, I think, is what is Jaden Maiava in 2025? They've been impressed with him so far this spring. It's only been a few practices, so we'll see how this whole thing trends and get more information out of the scrimmage. But one of the big notes on him is just the comfort level for him overall at USC has just continued to skyrocket because he comes in last year. It's essentially Miller Moss's job to lose. You take over the job in November. There was never really, I think, a natural entry point for Jaden Maiava to really insert himself as a leader. Sounds like, though, with the way the offseason has gone, he's kind of a more vocal cat. He's kind of taken charge as being leader of this football team. It's a very, very good sign. Also getting more comfortable with the playbook. I think he's going to be a guy for you here in 2025, just my opinion. I think that his skill set, I think his mobility, I think the fact that he's had a full year in the system at this point, I think also the fact that Lincoln Riley went and got him via the portal. This wasn't a dude that was just on campus when Lincoln Riley showed up. This was a guy that Lincoln Riley went and recruited from UNLV when he was in the portal and got him to play at USC, and now good things are happening on the offensive side, I would imagine, because of a one Jaden Maiava. Now, there's another portal addition from the JUCO level that is getting some buzz right now at USC. Popular show, everybody loves Waymond. Not everybody loves Raymond, everybody loves Waymond. Waymond Jordan is a number one running back out of the JUCO level via the portal, is now at USC, 5'9", 210. Dude averaged 7.4 yards a carry last year at the JUCO level. That is absolutely ridiculous. I've been told that on 4th and 1, the entire situation at USC is now much more confident because of what he brings to the table. Better after contact, tremendous tackle-breaking ability. They love what they've gotten him so far. I think he's going to be a player for him. Jacoby Lane, we did a spring propaganda segment, I guess it was on Tuesday's show, on him just making ridiculous catches. Looks like it's out of a fantasy football commercial. What I was told is he's doing that every single day. He's just putting on a show every single practice. So for people like us that get to see it via social media for the first time, it seems pretty casual for a one Jacoby Lane. I've also been told that Jacoby Lane has matured a lot in terms of how he handles his business at USC since last season. Very good sign. Living up to the standard, doing what he's supposed to be doing, which with all his talent, to pair that kind of report on top of things, that's a very, very good sign for USC fans with all the special ability he has. Because last season, you saw it in some big moments there. Like the Texas A&M game comes to mind, Notre Dame game comes to mind. Jacoby Lane is an absolute freak show, man. So for him to continue to elevate and take that next step during the spring is tremendous news. Mekhi Lemon, when you pair those two together, it's going to be an absolute nasty, nasty receiving core. But I start to think about the great USC teams. I think about, having that go-to guy at receiver like a Jacoby Lane. You think about the Pete Carroll days, a guy who wore the same number as Jacoby Lane, Dwayne Jarrett. You think about Mike Williams and what he was at USC. I think that's kind of the mark of a really good USC team is you have a dude out wide. Jacoby Lane could be that dude, will be that dude, and they are really excited about what he's done so far this spring to pair with a tremendous season last year where he caught double-digit touchdowns. They got some dudes on the defensive line now. And you've heard me say that about USC because in previous springs we've been talking about the portal additions for USC and the new faces and how it's going to be a better looking outfit. That's still true. But this is a different kind of spring for USC on the D-line because it's not just a different looking outfit from that first string level. It's like, no, we go to the twos. We got real platoons now, I have to believe, here at USC. Some young bucks they're excited about. Jakeem Stewart, you may know him as Thanos. Dog, I don't know if he calls himself Thanos or if other people call him Thanos. If Thanos is something that you go by, I don't care who gave you that nickname, that probably warrants a little bit of extra buzz. I was told that during one of his first practices at USC, you're wondering what the freshman's going to bring to the table, right? I mean, hasn't really, based on his high school career, didn't have the most traditional lead into USC. There was not a ton of high school tape on the guy based on just different things with him and not playing as much as you would, typically see from a high schooler. So you're wondering what you're going to get from the guy. And then one of the first reps, dude has a bull rush, pushes someone several yards in the backfield, and you're like, oh, okay. No, that's real. Everything he was billed as a recruit is, from what I understand, translating for the most part right now at USC. 6'6", 270. So he's going to be a problem for you. He's going to play as a freshman. Floyd Boucard is another guy that I've been told is going to play as a freshman, 6'3", 315. What I've actually been told is he's a guy that gets mentioned potentially even, depends on who you ask, before a Jakeem Stewart. How much does that mean? I don't know. But the bottom line here is you got two young freshmen going to play to go along with what you already have in-house. Cam Fountain, going to be a dude. I'm going through a lot of names here for USC. We haven't always had that for the Trojans. We talked about Bear Alexander when he transferred in. You talk about Anthony Lucas when he transferred in. That was great, but that was just sort of like the first wave of guys. Like USC, I know that Bear Alexander's not USC anymore. I understand that. But that whole era with that portal class, it's a different sort of feel around the depth they have up front for the Trojans. And in the Big Ten, man, it's non-negotiable. It's a line of scrimmage conference. College football, obviously a line of scrimmage game, but especially when you got a matchup with some of those powers in the conference, that's a non-negotiable to have, one at the highest level, and they feel like they now have that. One other note I have on USC, which I thought was interesting, people talk about culture during the spring, and it's a little bit lip servicey, right? Because everyone's going to talk about their culture and doing the right things and how they care about each other. It's interesting to juxtapose, though, the vibe around this culture at USC compared to maybe previous years. What I've been told is previously at USC, when the defense was not holding up there in the bargain, there was maybe some room for some animosity to live there. The offense is out here scoring 40-plus a game, but we're losing ball games because our defense can't stop anybody. Swiss cheese kind of defense, man. It's kind of created I don't know if rift is the word I would use, but that sort of vibe just wasn't breeding to the best environment ever. You have to believe. That's not the case with this roster. A lot of cohesion. Guys like each other. Guys like being around each other, like hanging out off the field. All those things now, which, again, put as much stock into it as you want, but I think that's one of the key pieces here in modern college football to winning. I know NIL is a big thing. The portal is a big thing, but still, having that chemistry, having that good team culture is something you got to have here, I think, to win, and sounds like USC has that. Now, internally, they feel like they're a playoff team. And I don't think that's something that's based in false confidence or in some fool's gold from what last year was. I get the record was the record, but y'all, they were in every single game. And I think they realized that. I think there's some real merit to that. So for that to be the expectation, that to be where their sights are fixed, I'm really, really juiced to see what they're in the fall, because they could sneak up on some people, man. I think we on the show are a lot higher on USC than maybe some other folks are. I would not be surprised in the slightest if they found their way to Indy and played in the Big Ten title game. So far, so good through the spring. We will, of course, keep you updated as we get some more intel out of Los Angeles. But let's go from one coast to the other, man. Out to the East Coast, out to the Sunshine State, Florida State. Little spring intel, a little bit of scrimmage intel here. Now, Mike Norvell is locking it down out there. There's no media access allowed, from what I understand, during spring practice. Still getting some good intel, getting some good buzz based on having our ear to the ground over there. Gus Malzahn, going to be your new OC. We had Mike Norvell on the show not that long ago, and he talked about hiring him, what made him the right fit. Mike Norvell originally was working for Gus Malzahn when he first got into coaching. So you wonder, okay, well, you know, a guy who you used to work for is now working for you. How's that whole thing going to formulate? What I've been told is it is Gus Malzahn's offense, but there is also a great amount of influence from Mike Norvell. But Mike Norvell is not taking the sticks away from Gus Malzahn and trying to do his job for him, if that makes sense. They feel really good about their working relationship. Seems like it's very complimentary so far. They went in their past scrimmage here, 60% run, 40% pass, which is about what you're expecting from Florida State here in 2025. Gus Malzahn's been very clear. We're not going to reinvent the wheel here, dude. We're going to get in our bag. We're going to do it at a very high tempo. We're going to pound the rock, and that's going to pretty much be what we do. It's not going to be a whole lot of trickeration, not going to be a whole lot of smoke and mirrors. We're going to play our game, stick to what works, and that's going to be that. Thomas Castellanos, obviously, will be your quarterback here in 2025, Boston College transfer. I think with him transferring to Florida State, a lot of Seminole fans are like, cool, he tore us up, but also he transferred out of Boston College, and it wasn't like Boston College was a college football playoff team. Help me understand why this is the guy for us. Sounds like when he was at Boston College, they ran an offense that was very much so a NFL style of system from a one Bill O'Brien. And there's nothing wrong with that, but, I mean, Thomas Castellanos isn't your prototypical NFL quarterback. I'm not saying he can't still have a career on Sundays if that's how it ends up working out for him, but he's a guy that is a tremendous runner of the football, does great when he has some ad-lib potential. I think he does great when he has options on the field. He's not a guy that's going to sit back there, do a three-step drop for you, stay in the pocket, and just be a statue. Like that's not his game. And so with how it shook out at Boston College, the feeling is they didn't really do a lot to cater the offense to Thomas Castellanos' skill set. That's the absolute opposite of what they're going to do here in 2025 in this Gus Malzahn system with him running the show. So I told you, run the football, going to be a part of this. But when you speak to the passing game, they went out and got a baller in Deuce Robinson from USC. His skill set speaks for itself. And if you go watch what he did at USC, I think that there's enough tape there to get you excited. Also, what he was as a recruit, dude's an absolute ball player. He's a worker, has been the report on him. He is a guy that is setting the temperature in that wide receiver room. They expect him to be wide receiver one. He's leading the charge in that wide receiver room, which I think is a good thing. Anytime you got a guy who operates the way that Deuce Robinson operates and brings everyone up to his level, that would get me fired up. Had a big play early in that spring scrimmage. So I think a lot of it will be, we talked about how the offense is going to be broken down. I think a lot of it will be run to pass, safeties creep up, over the top, Deuce Robinson makes some plays. So they're excited with him. They're encouraged by him so far with what they've seen from the USC transfer in that wide receiver room. Now, speaking to the scrimmage, though, the defense won the day. It's always tricky to totally diagnose a spring scrimmage as a college football fan because you're playing against your own team. So if the defense played great, you're like, well, what's wrong with the offense? Offense lit it up. Hey, what's wrong with the defense? Defense won the day, but the offensive line is a little bit dinged up. You're trying to mix and match a combination of guys and trying to get it all going the right direction. Even with that being said, there's some cautious optimism around what the D-line will be in 2025. They allowed 5 yards a carry in 2024. So, again, you can't pin too much of an expectation on one scrimmage in the spring. But if I'm a Florida State fan, I'm sitting here saying, man, how much worse can it really get? We really going to be worse than 5 yards a carry? We'll take cautious optimism. We can work with that all day. Now, new DC along with new OC. You got DC Tony White in from Nebraska. Y'all, I still think he's a future head coach. I'm really excited what he's going to be in Tallahassee. They feel like he has been, a smash hit so far. They love the way that he connects with the players. They think he's a great communicator. Players can relate to him. Been a smash success there. Kids love him. The second part of this, though, that I think is maybe a little more interesting if you're a Florida State fan as it pertains to what you're going to see on Saturdays. There's a totally different philosophy for a one Tony White on defense than what you saw the previous season at Florida State. Last year, your scheme was very much so keep it all in front of you. We're going to play a not conservative defense, but we're going to make sure that we're not getting ourselves beat on the big play. That was the approach schematically. Now, did it happen that way? Not all the time. Tony White's like, hey, let's risk it for the biscuit. Let's be deceptive. Let's be aggressive. Yeah, it might be a couple of plays where we get got, but we're going to make sure we get ours more than we get got, though. To shout out Marshawn Lynch there. So that's kind of the tempo they're trying to operate with defensively. I'll say this much. I think it's probably a fun defense to play in. Pair that with what I said at the top of this thing. There's buy-in from the players to Tony White. I don't know if that was the case last year, watching what happened for Florida State on the field. Because last year, I don't know that it was really a talent level thing for Florida State. Now, was it college football caliber playoff talent like we thought it would be? I mean, no. But I don't think it was enough talent to where you were just outmatched against some of those teams you lost to. Not to knock on anybody else in the ACC, but Florida State, I think, still has the talent with this scheme, with the buy-in. I think there's a lot to be encouraged by through a few practices in Tallahassee. So far, so good through a few practices and a scrimmage out there for the Noles. Now, we'll stay in the Sunshine State. Florida had a scrimmage this past week. And now, DJ Lagway, there was a sighting. Just a sighting. Did not throw the football. Got a little bit of burn. Did not have any downfield passes. But what I will say is when he got into the spring scrimmage, the intel is there was a certain lift to the offense, which I think just continues to speak to how important he is, man. Like, he is going to be a guy that will obviously dictate how far Florida goes. That's not saying anything that drastic. But to have some tangible juice for the offense when he's in the game, to me, that just validates everything that you've heard about him as a leader and what he is as the temperature setter for that football team. So I was encouraged to hear that. Got himself a little quarterback keeper in there. So sounds like we're still kind of resting up, but that's good news. You got DJ Lagway out there moving around a little bit and making an appearance in your spring scrimmage. Got some more intel for you, but before we do that, I want to make sure I tell y'all that the Hard Count is brought to you by our friends over at Rhoback. Now, y'all, I'm rocking some Rhoback right now. Rhoback is taking care of us, taking care of y'all. There's only one way to describe Rhoback: best fit, best feel. And for those who aren't familiar, man, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable active wear. I got pants, I got shorts, I got this tee right here. I mean, you can wear this working out. You can wear this hosting a college football show. You can wear this maybe go out to a semi-nice dinner. Rhoback, they got you covered. All right. Also, Rhoback has proudly signed several athletes to NIL partnerships, leading the NIL charge, college football stars of past and present, becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. So, before we get back to the intel, code JD on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all performance polos, shorts, tees like this, and more with code JD. Just those two letters. So, some other intel for you from the spring scrimmage. Wide receiver room, man, just continues to look good. Can only maximize DJ Lagway if you got somebody to catch the football from the guy. Aiden Mizell, a name that you know if you're a Florida fan, waiting for him to really kind of break out. Took a short pass 50 yards to the crib. We'll take that every time. Right? My guy commits with a live alligator, and then he goes and catches a 50-yard pass a few years later in a spring scrimmage. Dude's a burner. Okay, so if they can get him up and rolling, I think that would be something that Florida fans would love to see. He had himself a great day. J. Michael Sturdivant, we've told you about several times on this show. If you're keyed into everything going on at Gators Online. They've told you multiple times about him. Transfer wide receiver from UCLA. Florida won his recruitment in the transfer portal over a Georgia. If Kirby wants a guy, probably a good player. Billy Napier won the guy, so that tells you everything you need to know. Had a great scrimmage. He's going to be, from what I've been told, their deep threat. The difference, though, with him is he's also a big body kind of guy. So you have a deep threat who can also go win one-on-one for you in the red zone. Guy you can throw a backline kind of throw to where you can go climb the ladder, bring it down. Size and speed, very, very difficult to match up with one-on-one. He had a few receptions, had himself a good day. In addition to that, a couple of other freshmen, Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, guys we've talked about before. Again, frequency for all three of those guys, Wilson, Brown, and Sturdivant, frequency. Talking about them, think it's going to be real. They're continuing to impress. And then Hayden Hansen, likely going to be your starting tight end, had a touchdown in the scrimmage as well. Now, defense. Defense made some plays, man. Devin Moore won a jump ball against a one J. Michael Sturdivant. That's just two dogs going at it, two alphas going at it. It wasn't a thing like J. Michael Sturdivant just got dominated. Like, it was just a ball that was in the air. Devin Moore went up and climbed the ladder, went and got it. And it's encouraging to see that from one of the leaders of your defense, one of the guys that's going to be a big contributor for you next season, locked in, starting at corner. It's encouraging to see that from a guy for your spring scrimmage, if you will. Now, again, DJ Lagway is not really playing that much in this scrimmage, so take it with a grain of salt. But creating 3 turnovers that the Florida defense did, that makes me very encouraged about the direction it's all heading. Now, Cormani McClain is a name that a lot of Florida fans know. Transfers from Colorado to Florida. And the early thing you heard about him when he got to Florida is a lot of things around him just not handling his business, things that had nothing to do with actually playing football. He wasn't doing a phenomenal job at. Like, he wasn't being a pro about it. Well, fast forward the tape now, he's making a case to start here when it comes time for the fall at corner. A guy who has continued to just take the proper steps. He's a guy that's getting more reps now during the spring because of some injuries to the cornerback position. It's one thing to get some reps because guys are hurt. It's another to take advantage of it. And that's what Cormani McClain, is doing right now. The interesting part about that is Cormani McClain thriving right now at Florida. I think a lot of that you point to Billy Napier's culture and what he's built around that program to be able to foster the growth of a one Cormani McClain. Like, if Cormani McClain comes to Florida with what we heard is essentially not taking care of his business, you would probably be fair in assuming there's some bad habits there. If Cormani McClain walks into Florida and it's just a mess and standards all over the place, guys are also doing the wrong things, and there's no real code of excellence there, then Cormani McClain isn't likely set up for success. Not to say he couldn't still do it, but he's probably not set up for success. So Cormani McClain doing what he's doing right now during the spring and pushing for a job to start along with Devin Moore at the cornerback position, that to me is huge for Cormani McClain because of what he is as a football player, but it's just as, I think, huge with what you say about Florida right now with the infrastructure they have in place. And you give a lot of credit to Billy Napier for that. So it's tough to get a lot from this spring scrimmage. You had a big-time play from Cameron James, we're going to talk about here in a second. But, yeah, man, it's just a lot of injuries. You're trying to do your best to sort through the different pieces that will look different in the fall. But so far, so good. And the scrimmage was, of course, just good to see the pads out there popping a little bit when it comes to what's going on out there in Gainesville. Now, speaking of what's going on out there in Gainesville, man, you know that we love our spring propaganda on this show. We inhale it. We love it. We take 50 cc's, distill it down into a serum, and put it in our veins. Florida, the social team, put out a banger from the spring scrimmage, man. You got big Cameron James, edge defender, 6'6", 272, having the play of the day. We told you the Florida defense had 3 turnovers, volleyball, tip it up to himself, set spike, run it all the way back to the crib. That's a big dude, man. 6'6", 272, like I already mentioned. It's a lot of mass. All right, it's a lot of mass and acceleration there. If you listen to the audio on the social clip over on the Florida socials, they're telling him to get down. If I'm Cam James, I'm saying, how dare you tell me to get down, dude? You know how many times I'm probably going to get my hands on a football like this in an 11-11 setting? I don't care what the situation is. I don't care if we're up by a certain margin. I am taking this football all the way until somebody brings me down. All right? So don't tell me to get down, dude. How about you get down? Leave me alone, bro. Also, you love having the juice of a big man touchdown during a spring scrimmage. That's a great way to set the whole place off. I absolutely love every part of that. Now, Cameron James, He's one of several edges at Florida that can play ball at a high level. Like Florida last year as a defense, top 15 when it came to their sack rate in college football. 65% of the defense production-wise is back for Florida. Top 20 in America. This got me thinking a little bit here. Florida has a dude factor that is continuing to elevate. I think they're finally now in 2025 in a place where their dude factor is good enough to get them to where they want to go. Maybe it's not better than your Georgias. Maybe it's not better than, your Texases, but I think it's good enough to where you can compete on every single Saturday. A play like this just got me thinking, man, like, why not Florida? And maybe we're taking a lot from a little. It's definitely the case, but if the dude factor is where it's supposed to be, and you feel like you got one of the top quarterbacks in college football in DJ Lagway, and that translates to picking it where he left off in 2025, from 2024 to 25, I should say, your year 4 under Billy Napier, we spoke to the culture that he's put in place seemingly, plus all the returning production you have. Also, you got a roster with guys with truly battle scars from what last season was. What else does Florida really need? And I get the schedule's tough. Like, that's going to be the number one rebuttal for everybody. But are you 110% sure that Georgia's got a guy at quarterback? Are you 110% sure that Arch Manning is going to be phenomenal as we think he's going to be? They replaced a lot on offense. So my point in all this is, like, the Cam James touchdown is sick. It's cool to see some excitement during the spring practice, but you sort of start to go down this rabbit trail of, like, hey, they got Cameron James, not the only dude they got out on the edge. Cameron James is not the only dude that's played some college football at a high level for Florida. Like, you go up and down the line here. My only question around Florida was the wide receiver position, and they feel like they got that box checked, so much so to where they don't believe they're going to go to the spring transfer portal to get another wide receiver. It's all there. It's all there for Florida to go make a run at this thing. Now, what does that look like? Does make a run at this thing mean they win 9 games? Is it 10 games? I said it before, I'll say it again. I think 9 wins for Florida, if it looks the right way and they have the right context around them across the sport, they could be a playoff team. Like, do not get it twisted. 9-3 with how tough their schedule is, they could be a playoff team. Not saying that's all you need to do, but it's there. It's right there for Florida. And seeing Cam James get in the end zone, dude, you got to love that. If you're a college football sicko, you got to love that. Good vibes across the board there in Gainesville. And especially good vibes for everyone, Cameron James getting in the paint. We love to see that. Now, some more propaganda for you. This one out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. If you're a Michigan fan, you've been watching the Michigan football socials like a hawk. Why? You want to see number 19. And Michigan, they've shown some sleight of hand here with these different spring highlight videos. They've done a really good job of almost trying to, I don't want to say hide, but they've done a good job not giving us a great visual for number 19 during spring practice, number 19 being Bryce Underwood. So the Michigan social team posted this video, but shout out Winged Helmet on Twitter because they slowed this clip down. That was a little small part of the hype video from spring practice from Michigan. Check this out, man. Bryce Underwood dropping it in a bucket. You got to look very, very close, but you can see number 19 right there, tossing the absolute rock in 11-on-11 to a one. Channing Goodwin, 6'1", 185. This is awesome, dude. This is awesome. If you're a Michigan fan, that's all you need to see. I mean, we were talking about Bryce Underwood throwing routes on air and getting fired up about it. Make no apologies for this, dude. It's spring football. Get pumped up. If you can't have the blood flowing a little bit after this, you can't have the juices going, I can't help you. Everyone's going to say it's spring practice. Yeah, it is spring practice. That throws non-contact jersey kind of throw. Maybe so. Michigan, their longest pass last year was 36 yards. And it was on a trick play, dude. I don't care if this is non-contact for Bryce Underwood. I don't care if it's spring ball. It's 11-on-11. It's a great throw. And you got your guy Channing Goodwin making a play for you down at the end. Because, yeah, it's a good throw, no doubt. But, I mean, you got Channing Goodwin sliding, collecting the football. Channing Goodwin, get ready to learn Hail to the Victors, buddy. That's all I'm saying here. So this is a glimpse, literally, if you're a Michigan fan, at your future. When you brought Bryce Underwood in, it was for visions like this of the vertical passing game. I get it. It's spring practice. It's spring propaganda. But this is what you signed up for, the explosive element to the offense. Michigan is always going to be a running the football team. They will always have the bully mentality, always have the edge, always have the we're going to put you in a headlock and make you say uncle for 4 quarters kind of mentality. But when you got a dude at quarterback that can really pop the top on a defense and make you pay when those safeties creep up, can make you pay himself in the run game, he's different, man. He is very, very different. And Michigan overall, bring him into the fold now, he's the reason why you expect to go make the college football playoff for the multiple years in the future. Now, is it this year? It all comes down to how quickly he can up to speed and how much help you're going to get around him. You got guys like Channing Goodwin making catches like that consistently, separating consistently. Got the offensive line holding up their end of the bargain up front, some inexperience. There's a lot of things that you're wondering, are they going to work out for you here in the fall? But when it's the spring and you got stuff like this going on, you got passes downfield, and you're stealing it out of the Michigan hype video from Winged Helmet. Again, shout out to them for slowing this down. It's just kind of like looking at the forecast for the next week. It's just nice to see. It's just good to have it on the visual. What's it going to look like when you actually get to the next week? And is it actually going to be a high of 85 with no clouds in the sky? We'll see. But all we got right now is the present moment in the spring. And I am all about seeing Bryce Underwood throw dimes downfield in the Michigan indoor. I'm all the way here for it. So some good propaganda there from the Michigan social team. And shout out to y'all for slowing that one down and making it happen and getting us some eyes on this thing. Now, another propaganda piece out of Boulder, Colorado. We love to see it. Kaidon Salter to a one Joe Williams here. Kaidon Salter, we say this, frequency check. This is the second independent clip I've seen of Kaidon Salter throwing a touchdown from the Colorado socials. Could mean something, could mean nothing. All I'll say is Kaidon Salter in a quarterback battle right now. I've just seen him throw 2 touchdowns on social media. Now, Julian Lewis also threw a touchdown, or maybe it wasn't a touchdown. It was a nice throw downfield on social media that got him some love. But all I'm saying here is if Kaidon Salter is doing stuff like that, I'm juiced. All right, so I'm all the way juiced about that. Also, talk about the catch there from a Joe Williams, one-handed. Just not your average Joe from Joe Williams, all right? Over 500 yards last year, almost 600 yards when he was at Tulsa, transferring over from there as the American Conference Freshman of the Year. This is kind of the prime effect, right? This is really what I think you signed up for if you're Colorado when you hired Deion Sanders. And everyone's going to be quick to say, well, yeah, but hey, JD, Shedeur and Travis are gone. I mean, can they really do what they did a year ago? People forget, man, Shedeur and Travis were also on a team that went 4-8. They won 9 games last year, but it wasn't like Shedeur and Travis just got dropped onto that team in 2024. So why was Colorado better in 2024? Why'd they go from 4 wins to 9 wins? Core roster talent. Elevating. I don't think Colorado's going anywhere. I really don't. I don't think they're going to have this massive drop off the face of the planet. Why? Because of what I just said. Core roster talent is continuing to elevate, continuing to evolve. You go out and grab a guy like Kaidon Salter, a guy like Joe Williams. You have proof that your way of doing things works, and that's what I think is scary, and that's why I believe in the sustainability here for Colorado here past 2025. The hardest part for Deion Sanders, I believe, was getting proof of concept to show, hey, what I'm doing here, using the portal how we use the portal, building it how we're building it. If we can get something on the field to show to future Colorado players that this works, all bets are off. Like, it's never going to be a Deion Sanders charisma question. There's no more anxiety, I think, around how Colorado operates. You know that. Go to Colorado, do it their way. Got a 9-win season as your resume so far. And I don't think they're stopping anytime soon. I can't help but think back to Coach Prime's first year in Boulder. And they play Oregon, and they get the brakes beat off of them in postgame. Deion Sanders says, you better get me now, because this is as bad as it's going to get. Y'all, I think he warned us. I genuinely think that Colorado, the sustainability now is there because you got it off the ground. Like, the toughest part of building a house is the foundation. Colorado now has a foundation in place, and that foundation, I think, is what attracted a Kaidon Salter via the portal, a Joe Williams via the portal. But here's the thing, too, for Colorado. They're not going to the portal nearly as much as they used to. Like, the first 2 years, Colorado takes 90 guys in those 2 years combined. This past year, it's been not crickets, but it's been substantially less than what it was previously. That tells you Deion feels good about his roster. If he didn't, he'd go to the portal. But seeing Kaidon Salter in a quarterback battle, dealing a dime like that, seeing Joe Williams go up one hand and just snag it, dude, I'm just saying, the skill players, I think, will always be attracted now. But as they keep on winning, they keep on building the trenches, I don't think Colorado is going anywhere. So we love seeing that spring propaganda, man. That just stokes the fires around the quarterback battle a little bit for Kaidon Salter and Julian Lewis. Like seeing the skill-making plays. All right, I'm just saying, Colorado, continuing the trend upward. No Shador, no Travis. Not going to say no problem, but if I'm a Colorado fan, at this point, I wouldn't say no reason for accepting, quite frankly, a step back from what 2024 was into 2025. Now, here's a fun one. This is one that's just beautiful, beautiful textbook spring propaganda out of South Carolina. And the caption here from the South Carolina social media team when they put this out was, "LaNobody graduates from special teams." Check this out, man. LaNorris Sellers getting in there, little kickoff return block drill, all 6'3", 240 of him, bodying up, bossing up on a defensive back, pushing him through. Couple of notes here, man. First of all, let's note the swag. The glow up here has been, I think, tremendous from LaNorris Sellers. I'm pro rec specs, right? Hear me? I am pro rec specs. But check out the visor. Check out the switch of the helmet going to the speed flex. I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, the turtleneck, the cutoff, like the dude's looking the part, right? It's my Heisman Trophy caliber kind of quarterback. I want to see him dressed like it. Sounds like a cliche. It is. It's real. I love everything about that. I'll also say here, the willingness to get in a special teams drill. I don't know if it was his choice or not, but young quarterbacks watching that, you want to win the respect of your football team, you'll jump in a drill like that everyone's having to do in your non-contact jersey, go throw a block. That's big time right there. It's about LaNorris Sellers for 2025 for South Carolina. Is the roster talent as good as everyone else in the SEC? I don't think so. But guess what? I also don't think anybody else in the SEC has a freak show at quarterback like LaNorris Sellers. So he's going to be a guy. I love seeing him mixed up on special teams. I'm all about this. Kaidon, we talked about this in the office, man. Get on here and talk your cash around LaNorris Sellers. How much does this spring propaganda fire you up from number 16?
It's funny, JD, because we've overanalyzed a lot of these big-time plays from transfers and other skill players, and then you have something like this where it's not completely realistic that we're going to see LaNorris Sellers on kickoff return for South Carolina this season. But these are the kind of things that just have such good vibes and energy. You know, the dog days of fall camp and spring practice. And to have a moment like this, I almost added the audio to this clip because it's just, you can hear the guys are so hyped and so excited that I think that having your quarterback go in there and do something like that, it's almost the equivalent of you've seen like a coach maybe catch some punts and that makes some social clips and stuff like that. It's just a good vibes, good enhancing thing, I think, Columbia. And I think take it with a grain of salt, but I feel good about the vibes of this Gamecocks team now, especially with seeing this kind of energy at their practice.
And people right now on YouTube are watching and saying, what are you talking? You're watching a special teams drill and taking something from that? One, yes. Two, LaNorris Sellers is a big part of what the challenge is, I believe, for him, whether it's from the coaching staff or whether it's something that he's putting before himself, is stepping up and being that more like visible, vocal leader, kind of a quiet guy, kind of reserved, not really the all about me, look at me guy, but doing stuff like that, dude. You don't have to say anything. You go out there and do a special teams drill with your guys, you got the respect of your whole team.
Yeah, there's not any freshmen. There's no freshmen. There's no redshirt freshmen that haven't earned respect on the field that are at quarterback that are just stepping into drills like that and it being a fun thing with good vibes. So I agree with that there. I think there's a lot of potential here. You mentioned that caption, the LaNobody kind of play on words with LaNorris' name. We're seeing that a lot with LeBron James lately as well. If this LaNorris Sellers season is Heisman-esque like you think it could be, I think we should also prep the audience to see a lot of love, fill in the blank when it comes to LaNorris Sellers here. And that's obviously good company being with the king there.
La touchdown, La Heisman.
Oh, you could see it now.
La playoff. There's a lot there, dude.
The Williams-Brice Stadium this year could be if they start off undefeated there. You mean, you got to love it.
La game day, La hard count. I'm just saying. Now, for every drill, there's two people competing. There's the other side of this. I'm not going to say my guy's name, but we did check the roster. We did check the measurables. This was it feels like orchestrated matchup from the coaching staff. 5'10", 170 versus 6'3", 240. Like, Kaidon, this is a no-win situation for my guy going up against LaNorris Sellers.
Listen, you hate to see it. You hate to see it, and I think that the player that was also the one trying to get around LaNorris, I put that in quotes because, I mean, what's this guy going to do? Like, hit the starting quarterback just under the chin just immediately and try to set the tone against a guy in a green jersey. So he was kind of put up in a position to fail as well. But I do want to give a shout-out to LaNorris for the technique there, man. Like, you obviously know he's a big guy. Lowers the pad level a little bit, shows some of the athleticism that you don't typically get to see at the quarterback position. We know he's a guy who can break tackles in his sleep. We know he is just the peak physique when it comes to being a dominant college football quarterback, kind of in that Cam Newton build. But seeing him be able to block a little bit, listen, I don't know what his NFL career will be. He's probably going to have a long one, but if anything hits the fan, I mean, this is a guy you can definitely throw out there, and he can make a play on special teams. I think he's that special of a guy.
Dude, I was gonna say, if you're LaNorris Sellers in the LaNorris Sellers camp, you're like, hey, cool video, appreciate that. Let's chill with all that. 6'3", 240. I mean, tremendous athlete. My guy's trying to play quarterback. I don't need tight end footage of him out there. I don't need any NFL scouts getting ideas and saying we'll draft this guy and have him play something besides quarter. I'm just saying, all in good fun. I'm just saying. But yeah, man. Last thing I'll say here on the green jersey stuff. You know as well as anybody, Kaidon, being a defensive player, when you see that non-contact jersey, it is like ingrained within your cerebral cortex to not have some violence. You're supposed to pull up. So they kind of did my guy dirty here and say, hey, go run full speed into that green jersey that we've coached you. Coach is not a good enough word to use. We have ingrained within you to not hurt or hit or even come close to doing either of those things. In a drill now, go hit him full speed. Like, it looked like when I watched that clip, he kind of pulled up like a half step because he's like, are we sure this is cool? Am I being punked? It's April Fool's? Like, I don't know. I feel for my guys, what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, I think it's the quarterback. It's the green jersey kind of, like you said, kind of programmed into your brain. This guy, I'm not going to name him, but shout out him because he obviously is now the butt of the jokes. He was at the expense of a LaNorris Sellers on a social media clip. But I think overall, like I said at the top, very good for the vibes overall. Everyone got a good laugh at it. It'll probably be an awesome moment in the film room too. But I will say, if LaNorris Sellers, if the roles were reversed and you have that 6'4", two about 50 running at you and you have to run to your spot and turn around and just expect him to come there, I don't know if the vibes would be the same. I know he's in a green jersey, but all of a sudden you have that freight train coming your way and you got to hold your ground, hold your hash mark maybe on kickoff return if you're trying to block the L5, you know what I mean? It could get hairy quick. So shout out that guy. That's a real team player, I think, being kind of the butt of the joke in that situation and going toe-to-toe with the quarterback in kind of a lose-lose take, but at the end of the day having and adding to the good vibes in Columbia, I'd say.
Yeah, Kato, I think you're spot on here, man. You're spot on here. Get my guy some NIL funds. Like, throw him a bone, throw him, I don't know, some gear. Just help my guy out because that might be Nasty Work Hall of Fame, if we're going to be real. Might be Nasty Work Hall of Fame. But, Kato, appreciate you, man. Still on the ones and twos, making this whole thing go. Hey, if you haven't yet called in, left us a voicemail, we'd love to hear from y'all. 629-888-3931. Y'all have brought the juice, as we expected. Evan brought the juice, man. Evan from South Bend said Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman. We just want some respect, man. Take a listen.
What up, boss? This is Evan from South Bend, Indiana. I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and obviously we had a cool little run. Been facing elimination since week 3, whatever, right? We weren't getting enough respect because I feel like any other team did that, sat up here and lost to a NIU, whatever, right? A bad team, and then sat up here and won every single game after that to make it to the Natty. They would have been talked about like they were gods. But because it was Notre Dame, I feel like, I mean, yeah, they gave us our props, but they weren't sitting up here, you know what I'm saying, really analyzing what we did. Like, nobody else could have done that. Realistically, I'm being honest. Nobody else could have sat up here and took that loss like Marcus Freeman did and then brought us back like that every single game, brought us back to just demolishing opponents every single game after that. Just bang, bang, 40-20, 40-20. Like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like Marcus Freeman should get that respect that he deserves, and so should our team, and so should our staff. We got a bunch of dogs over here in South Bend, man. I'm telling you. We got a bunch of dogs and a bunch of dogs returning. I just want some Marcus Freeman respect. I know you're one of them people that do give Marcus Freeman his respect, and I respect you for that. But I don't know. All love, though, JD. Go Irish.
Bunch of dogs. And a bunch of dogs returning, baby. I love Evan bringing the juice, man. Shout out, Evan. Evan, I hear what you're saying, brother. I hear what you're saying. Like, the NIU loss happens, and I think Notre Dame's one of those brands in college football that, kind of like those big brands in sports in general, people maybe take a little bit more pleasure than others in seeing them fail. Let's call a spade, dude. Notre Dame being unlikable for a while was a real thing. The brand in itself, how big of a brand it is, the deal that they're not in a conference, the fact that they have their own television deal with NBC. I think the brand kind of rubs some folks in a little bit of a different way. Also to pile onto this thing now, Brian Kelly, when he was at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly, publicly at least, not necessarily like the most likable coach in college football. Not my take on things, just what I believe the public opinion to be on the guy. So Notre Dame as a whole, I think, just like started to become more likable really this past season, or even since Marcus Freeman got there. So there was, I think, a lot of pleasure from the powers that be in the college football space to just, I don't know, maybe enjoy Notre Dame losing to NIU. That's all I'll say here. But as much as I hear that, it was still NIU. It was still a game that you cannot lose. It should not happen. Marcus Freeman knows that. That team knows that. It cannot, never will happen. And the tough part for Notre Dame is they had their splash game against Texas A&M to start. Big win. We're talking about Notre Dame as a playoff team. They could go play for a national championship. Both things that happened, but that didn't happen after NIU. It happened before. So we have that opinion. Then you lose to G5 NIU, and there wasn't really a spot on the schedule for Notre Dame where they could make up that public image, if you will. And it's not Notre Dame's fault. You expected Florida State to be a college football playoff caliber team. Wasn't the case. Notre Dame's fault? No. But that Notre Dame-Florida State game lost a ton of juice. That's too bad. USC played a lot better than I think most people even realized, but that game wasn't one that you're circling and saying, oh, man, big-time top 10 matchup, Notre Dame, USC. Like, it didn't have the same juice. And so there wasn't this filter for us to revitalize Notre Dame's image, if you will, since NIU. But it doesn't matter where your image is. As long as you make the college football playoff and get hot at the right time, you got a chance to really make some noise. And that's where Notre Dame, I think, was able to rebrand and rejuvenate themselves in 2025 from the court of public opinion. Now, your point about Marcus Freeman, I 100% agree with, brother. 100%. I respect Marcus Freeman. I think he's trending towards being a top 5 coach in the sport. If you think he's a top 5 coach in the sport right now, I wouldn't push back too much on that. The thing that I appreciate about him is he's not just winning on the roster building side and the development side, though they have done that. I mean, Notre Dame, 8 players at the Combine this year, arguably 2 of the top 10 players in college football next year. They got dudes. They absolutely got dudes. And that's only going to get easier, I think, for Notre Dame because they are killing the yap that Notre Dame is a place that has some kind of glass ceiling on it. Shards everywhere. I mean, you got stained glass all over the place here, depending on what kind of glass you're breaking, because of what you did last year. Going on the playoff run, beating Georgia, having Ohio State in the game in the fourth quarter, playing for a national title. Notre Dame's a different operation now, and that's only going to bolster what Marcus Freeman is on the recruiting trail. But what I would say in addition to that, probably as important, if not more important, Marcus Freeman is winning how good coaches win in the sense that he is maximizing everything he has on his roster. I mean, it felt like Notre Dame had 47 injuries last year in the playoff. Didn't matter. Notre Dame, they weren't one of the top 2 most talented teams in the college football playoff. One of the last 2 teams standing. Why? Because Marcus Freeman got this team to play together. Sounds cliche. It's true. Got them to play together. Got them to play to their potential. Met the moment. Won in the margins. And that's why they played for a national championship game. I really believe that's a Marcus Freeman trait. I really do. So as much as you wish you hadn't lost week 2 and went into fight or flight, in a weird way, like that was, I think, a great stress test for us to see who Notre Dame is as a football program going forward and who Marcus Freeman is as a head coach. It would have made all the sense in the world if Notre Dame had just folded and said, you know what, NIU loss, we got a long way to go. We can't lose another game. Who knows if we even win the rest of our games to make the playoff. No conference championship, never packed it in, never turned on each other, just kept the main thing and played for a college football, not just playoff berth, but national championship here in 2024. So here's what I will say, though. If you want respect, and I think Notre Dame from 2024 has earned it, you got to go get it. You got to go earn it year in and year out. It's kind of like having a good credit. It's built up year after year. It takes some time to establish respect carrying over from the season to the next season. Like, why do we talk about Dan Lanning in Oregon in a sense where we respect Dan Lanning as one of the top coaches in the sport right now? Because every single year they get better. Like, not just me saying that, like legitimately, Notre Dame as well, in some senses, continue to trend upward. Oregon has continued to take proper strides from play for the conference title last year, win the conference this year, make the playoff, like all those things where you trust Dan Lanning and you believe that what they have in-house is going to continue to translate and they're going to be a team that is always going to be a force. Why? Because you've seen the sustained success. Same thing with Steve Sarkisian. Last 2 years, made the playoff, made the semis in the 12-team format and the 4-team format. Respect has been earned there. Marcus Freeman has pushed Notre Dame to a place now in his entire career now to where you go do it again next year, there's going to be very little room for argument around what he is as a head coach in college football. There's going to be very, very little rebuttal you can make when you claim Marcus Freeman's a top 5 coach in the sport. And again, you can make that case right now, but you get some pushback, people saying, oh, it's just 1 year. Oh, yeah, but, they matched up well with Georgia having a backup quarterback, whatever. There's no arguing next year when he does it again. So, Evan, I agree with you. There should be more respect. There will be more respect next year when Notre Dame runs it back and capitalizes on what they've built up to here in 2025. So all we're asking for is some RESP Schmeet. Find out what it means to me, to quote Michael Scott. Got another call from one of y'all, man. Timothy in Scottsdale, Colorado fan, but he wants to talk a little bit about Nebraska. Take a listen.
Hi, this is Timothy from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I was wondering, is Nebraska back? Because I'm a CU fan, and I've been waiting for them to be back for basically a better part of a decade, and they've just been disappointing. Now, Rayola's been looking very promising, but is there signs that this is just fake or it's legit? Thank you. Love the show.
Timothy, appreciate you dialing in, man. Timothy dialing in from a library, dude. Just very keeping it hush-hush. Just us talking right now. Timothy, thanks again for calling in, genuinely. Fair question. Is Nebraska back? And this is always a difficult conversation to have when you talk about teams being back, because I think back is relative to your expectations for your college football team. Like back for Texas, I think you could have defined several years ago as being a team that's consistently in the national title picture. Back for Miami might be a team that wins the ACC and makes the playoff. Back for Nebraska, I think, is relative to what they've been historically. Like, I think Nebraska, their back factor is they're relevant in college football. But some folks a year ago might have said Nebraska being back means they go win a bowl game. Maybe they make a bowl game. Like, the back scale, I think, is really interesting to try to keep a gauge on. Now, me personally, I don't think Nebraska is what they would define as back, at least not yet. And the reason why I say that is, look at where Nebraska's been, man. Like, you roll through Lincoln, Nebraska, and you go check out that trophy room, there's national title trophies there. There was a run there where Nebraska was like the team in college football. To put a metaphor to this thing, man, Nebraska, that fan base, that program, they're used to being rich. Used to be, just swimming in the Benjamins, man, metaphorically speaking here. And now you went from being rich to having a bowl drought. You went from flying private to, being on the corner of the street, man, just begging for change. That's where Nebraska was for a period of time, man. They were broke. So what I would say to Nebraska being back now, you don't go from broke back to vacationing in Hawaii with the family, living on a private villa. It doesn't happen just that quickly. But what Nebraska has done now, they've gone from broke to having a steady job, can pay the bills, get pizza on Friday night, probably go to a movie with the friends. They've got that kind of financial standing now, I have to believe, in the context of how they've pushed themselves under Matt Rule and where they've built this thing to. Nebraska, though, as a fan base, being back, I think, is probably more in line with them winning conference titles. And if you win the Big Ten, that should speak volumes to what they are in the context of the national picture. Nebraska's at that point, though, where they've pushed themselves to be poised to make that jump to be back. Now, sometimes it takes a little bit of consistency, a little bit of persistence, if you will, to get to being back. But the good news for Nebraska is you're no longer broke. You're now in a spot where you have that steady job. You're at a point where you got to do the right things. You got to show up early. You got to leave late. You have a quarterback now who I think in Dylan Raiola has the ability to put you over the top. You got a head coach now who's known for what he does in year 3. He's now in year 3. Verified dude at offensive coordinator. Okay, great. Dana Holgerson, check. More weapons, workable schedule, success to build on. All these things are there for Nebraska. So, like, you have climbed the ladder now to be at a point where you can compete to be back, to get to what Timothy's, I think, ultimate question is. Is Nebraska back just yet? I don't think so. But, again, I don't think Nebraska, the average fan hearing this in Lincoln, I don't think is saying, what are you talking about? Yes, we're back. They expect to compete at a high level, too. They expect to go show up in Indy at a certain point in time here in the not-too-distant future and play for conference titles. That would, I think, qualify as back for them. Why? Because they've been there. They've tasted that. All right? So all that's to say for Nebraska, this year is about going and getting paid, man. got the steady job. Let's go elevate. Let's kick it up a notch, Emerald style. Let's go elevate. And let's go find ourselves in a spot where we can claim this time next year we are back under Matt Rule. So that's, I think, the next key for them, and that's something I'm excited to watch. But great question from Timothy in Scottsdale. Back? Not yet. Working on it? I think so. Making strides. We got Connor. Not giving us a location, right? Connor's saying no face, no case, but he's telling us he's got a very, very hefty amount of financial involvement in the result of Texas-Oklahoma. Take a listen.
My name's Connor. I'm just going to say I've got $5,000 that OU blows out Texas this year in the Cotton Bowl.
$5,000, dude. $5,000 from Con Man. Throwing around. I mean, we talked about Nebraska and the metaphor of them eventually being rich. Connor's saying, no, we're about to go get rich right now. Now, to be honest, I have looked for this line to see if there's any early line out on Red River. If it's out by the time you're watching this, then more power to you. I couldn't find one. If I were to guess right now, I'd probably lean Texas 8.5, Texas 7.5-ish, probably. Looking at Kaidon, we're waffling on it. We'll see. Maybe it's one of those games that's right around a touchdown if we were to put a number to it right now. But Red River it's a fascinating rivalry because it's not played on rivalry weekend. It's played in October. And the reason why it's interesting is you've not really totally, I think, found who you're going to be as a college football team just yet. So you have the getting your footing aspect, plus you have the other part of this where you are, quite frankly, you're in a spot where in a rivalry game. Like, rivalry games are weird. And so you factor that all in. Connor, I appreciate the confidence. 100% I do. I would not make this bet. That's not me telling you that I don't think Oklahoma can still win the football game. But I look at the way this thing shakes out, and I look at the lead-up for both teams. This, to me, can be one of the biggest ripple effects game in college football in 2025. I also think the game itself, as we sit here in April, this could be, I think, an instant classic. All right, now let's look at Oklahoma, man. They will have a legit chance, I think, coming into this game to legitimize what they're going to be in 25. Depending on how you feel about hosting Michigan and Bryce Underwood and hosting Auburn, Oklahoma might mess around and come into this game undefeated, dude, with John Mateer and what they think they could be on defense and the skill players. Can you imagine if Oklahoma rolls in undefeated? If that's the case, College game day is probably there yet again. But think about a win over Texas if you're Oklahoma. Let's say that Connor, if he decides to change his mind and just puts some money on Oklahoma money line, probably still pays out pretty well. You're putting $5,000 down. Think about how much that changes how you view yourself if you're Oklahoma. You beat a team in your rival who just made the college football playoff the last 2 years, and you're looking down the barrel of your schedule with wins over Michigan, Auburn, and Texas. Think about, one, just the breathing room you give yourself. Two, what you can be here at the end of the season. Because I'll tell you what, man, I don't think it gets a whole lot more difficult than playing Texas. I'm not saying Oklahoma fears Texas, but Texas is in a spot where Steve Sarkisian has pushed that program to a place where, I think every single year they're thinking playoff. And it's not just, it's Texas, the brand, they think playoff. It's like, no. They have the talent with how they've recruited, how that staff is built, who they're probably always going to have at quarterback, whether it's Arch Manning, whether it's Diabell, whether it's whoever. They're going to have a dude at quarterback. Like, you beat Texas, okay, we're cooking now. We're real deal cooking, and you can talk about being a playoff team, I think, at that point, if you're Oklahoma. Now, I will say this. I really, really like the vibes right now out of Norman. I'm not just saying the intel on Mateer dropping dimes, not just saying the defense, not just that. I like the vibes around Oklahoma when it comes to how I think they see themselves. Because I told you, like, this game would legitimize them in a different way. But I think there's just a certain feeling around Norman with the swagger feels back in the building, man. It does. Like, I don't want to take a lot from a little. Well, scratch that. I will take a lot from a little here. You go watch the mic'd up of Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer. They're having fun. They're competing with a lot of energy, with a lot of juice. And I get it, spring practice, but it feels different. What it reminds me of is a bit of a Baker Mayfield vibe. Like that dude, you couldn't tell him he was a walk-on. You couldn't tell him what he wasn't. Couldn't tell him how tall he was. Like, it's that kind of vibe, that us against the world mentality, and we love it, the don't give a fudge mentality from Oklahoma right now. That swagger's a dangerous thing, dude. Swagger's a dangerous thing. It's exceptionally dangerous whenever your talent level compared to the rest of your opponents is within striking distance. Doesn't have to be better. I don't need Oklahoma to have more 5-stars than Texas tomorrow, but if you have a dude at quarterback who I think embodies what I just mentioned, you're going to have a chance. you're going to have a chance. So in this game, man, my question is, how much Mateer magic is there? Because I think that's what it would take with how good I think Texas will be on defense. But if there's a dude who can get it done, my vibe right now is I think it's John Mateer. But for every side of this rivalry, man, you got Oklahoma, but you also got Texas. My question is, where are they at coming into this game? Because we mentioned the lead-up for Oklahoma. The lead-up for Texas is sneaky. You open at Ohio State, but the week before Red River, you got to go to the Swamp and play Florida, which will be scrappy as all get out. What's Ohio State's what's Texas's record after Ohio State, after Florida? What's their record? Do they have a loss? I don't think that's crazy to say. Y'all, could they have 2 losses? I'm not picking it right now. I'm asking the question, is that a possibility? Even if they just have 1 loss and they come into this game. If you drop Red River and you're Texas, you're fight or flight the rest of your schedule. And you still got to play Georgia, still got to play A&M. That would, one, just be a wild world to live in as college football fans. But the biggest storyline for me for Texas and Red River is just the stress test for them in this way. We just spoke about Notre Dame during this live show. Notre Dame was in fight or flight after week 2. And in a weird way, it served them well. And it was a big reason why I think they played the way they played in the playoff, because they had been in playoff mode since the NIU game. But I would just be really, really interested to see how this team responds. Specifically, how would Arch Manning respond? Because this is obviously going to be a lot of expectation and hype, and I think the expectation is fair. I don't think Arch Manning is wilting at the fact that he's going to have to go be the guy to take Texas to a national title game here in 2025. I think he welcomes that. But it would be, I think, very, very telling to learn about what's under the hood. Like Red River, man, it reveals a lot of character, and it reveals a lot of competitive stamina. Just rivalries do that to you, man. The energy's cranked up, emotions cranked up, environment's crazy. There's not a lot of room for posturing in a game like this. So, Arch, my question is, what we got, baby? Can you go win a quarterback duel against John Mateer if it calls for that? Now, I don't want to pretend that's exactly what it comes down to, because there's a very real possibility here that Texas's roster talent is just superior and they win on that day. You don't have to ask Arch to go for 3 bills and 2 touchdowns. But I do think that's where this game gets really interesting to me. Because if Texas can go win because of Arch Manning and Red River, we mentioned about the confidence that would build for Oklahoma if they beat Texas. What if Arch Manning just goes berserk in Red River over a Brent Venables defense? And we're reliving that 49-0 kind of vibe that there was a couple of years ago. Didn't it feel like that game sort of propelled Quinn Ewers in some ways? And I'm not saying that Oklahoma team was a world beater by any stretch, and they had no quarterback in that game, so there's a lot of variables there. But didn't that kind of feel a little bit like a turning point for Quinn Ewers in his career at Texas? I wouldn't be so sure it can't be that for Arch Manning. Because if you go, whether you've beaten Ohio State or whether you've lost to Ohio State, if you can answer in a big game against Oklahoma, that tells me a lot about how he's built upstairs. And I'm not questioning it, but I'm just telling you, to see it in person, to see it actually play itself out, that would tell us a lot. So the winner of this game will flinch the least, will not flinch last, and it's going to test all the unquantifiables. We love it. This will have a quarterback draw line in the sand feel to it, is my vibe right now. But overall, man, Red River, Connor, best of luck, dude. If you win 5K, more power to you. I don't know that an Oklahoma blowout is the most likely scenario here. If it happens, more power to you. I just think we're in for an instant classic. And you're talking about Oklahoma being a playoff team if they win, I think. And if Texas loses, you're talking about fight or flight. What are they going to be when they play Georgia? What are they going to be when they play A&M? It'll be a lot of fun, man. But speaking of Oklahoma, if you've watched this show, man, you know it's about that time. It's about time for some GM all access, right? Oklahoma, you hire Jim Nagy to be your general manager in Norman. And when you made this move, this is what we call a boss move from the folks out there in Norman. This is a move you make when you're looking to the future. You're adapting for modern college football. This was I believe, on paper at least, a home run hire from the Sooners. We'll talk about all that right now. But first things first, if you're an Oklahoma fan, make sure you are subscribed. If you want to see more Oklahoma content, the best way to let us know is by being subscribed. We get to see who subscribes to what videos. So if you subscribe to this video, go ahead and hit that button, and it'll let us know, and we'll make sure we get you what you need. So like I mentioned, GM All Access is powered by Teamworks, all right? Let me get this helmet out right here. Boom. Powered by Teamworks, baby. Give me that. Win the revenue sharing era with Teamworks General Manager. Purpose-built for collegiate athletics, trusted by 99% of D1 NCAA institutions, Teamworks is uniquely designed by those who understand the challenges of college athletics. Strategically allocate resources, optimize investments, evaluate your roster, and build championship-caliber teams all on one integrated platform. Check out teamworks.com/general-manager to learn more. So Jim Nagy, man, Teamworks All Access, GM All Access, powered by Teamworks, he's bringing the juice, all right? He's bringing the juice. We've seen him bring the juice so far on the social media side of things, but he's going to bring the juice on the roster building side of things. Here's what this said to me, though, when you hired him. You don't go hire a guy who is interviewing for NFL GM jobs unless you yourself are going to operate like an NFL organization, meaning you are probably going to, I'm assuming, get more in the ballgame than you already are on the financial resources side of things to land top talent. But even more so, man, this just shows the adaptability and the vision of a Brent Venables in Oklahoma, aligning your goals with your actions, right? Like input equals output. And if the output you want is to win at the highest level, what does that require? Probably got to have pretty good players. Probably got to have one of the better rosters in college football. So you want to have a great roster, what do you have to have? Got to have good infrastructure. Got to have the right personnel department. You want to have the right personnel, output. Well, then you got to make sure you have the right guy leading all that. So you go out and hire a guy who's interviewing for NFL GM jobs in A1 Jim Nagy. So what I love about this hire outside of, what it means for Oklahoma, I love the fact that you got a guy in Jim Nagy who just knows what it looks like to have top-tier dudes. Like, he's not wandering through this thing and has only been at the collegiate level and is trying to get up to speed to modern college football. Like, he's lived in that medium here between the NFL and college football, having been the executive director of the Senior Bowl for a very long time. He knows what NFL players look like. And it's not just a thing where he took, dudes to the Senior Bowl that are playing at Power 4 schools. Like, you got guys from Houston Christian showing up, and then they pop in the Senior Bowl because Jim Nagy and that team scouted them and saw their potential, and then they go and get drafted in the NFL and they're making plays on Sundays. Like, shout out to Alex Hunt. So to round this out, man, my thought around Oklahoma, like, this is them bossing up, like I said before. They go get an offensive staff with Ben Arbuckle and John Kuzieski from Washington State. You go get John Mateer via the portal. Have to imagine that came at a pretty penny as well. And you go get a GM for the future. Oklahoma is saying, okay, we want to compete at this level. We expect this from our team. We better make sure that we, as an organization, are bringing this for our team. We want to compete at the highest level. We better make sure we have the highest level of resources, the highest level on our staff to go win in the new era of college football. So Jim Nagy, I think he's going to be a dog for Oklahoma. I think over the course of the next few years, you will see his fingerprints all over this roster, both via the portal and at the high school recruiting level. Oklahoma's got a good one, man. It might take a second to see the return on investment, but I'm telling you, you got a good one, and he's definitely one of the better GMs, I believe, in terms of guys that we can speak to for what Oklahoma has as the leader of the personnel department. Again, general manager Jim Nagy, GM All Access, powered by Teamworks. Appreciate them bringing that to us all today. Appreciate y'all bringing the show, man. Robust show, as we say around here, man. Covered a lot, some spring intel, some propaganda. Hey, if you want to see more content around your team, subscribe to the channel and comment in the comment section who you want us to talk about, and we'll make sure we get that done for you. All right, so Kaidon on the ones and twos and on the mic today. A special treat for your Thursday for myself. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.